Now that you know what is Remix, let's quickly talk about how it works, that you can add files and what are these files that are already there. So in the previous versions of Remix, there were no workspaces, and this is kind of a new thing. I mean, not so new anymore. It's already in there for a year around. But before there were no workspaces. So what are workspaces? Workspaces are like folders. Since Remix is not really opening any folder on your hard drive. I mean, you can technically, I think there's a daemon for that, but internally it's kind of meant to work around these projects, and they call these workspaces. So when you just open remix.ethereum.org for the first time, then you have a default workspace, and you can add new workspaces like new folders over here, and then you can give them a name, and you can even choose a template if you want to use one of those Open Zeppelin smart contracts or just a blank one or the default template, which is this one. I'm not going to create a new workspace now. I'm just using the default workspace throughout our course because I think I don't need another workspace. If you want to create one, if you want to play around with that, fine. The more important thing is, what do you do inside those workspaces? And that is, you can create new files. And since this is not a normal IDE like a VS Code or so, where you can just like right click, it will open the context menu of your browser. Unless you click on a file, then you have to, I think, select the folder where you want to create a file, and then you create a new file in there. And you can name this, for example, my contract.sol for a Solidity file. And what will happen, maybe will happen, maybe not, is that it gets directly compiled. And you see now this is really tailored for Solidity development because there's an integrated compiler, there's an integrated test chain, and it is also already highlighting Solidity code. So if you write something like a contract, my contract, and then you make curly brackets, open and closed, you see it's already highlighting the right syntax and so on and so forth. So everything is kind of tailored around Solidity development, which is the nice thing about it. What happens if the contract is compiled? It lands in an artifacts folder. More on that later, don't worry about it. And in Remix, since a few versions, you also have the option to script stuff because the whole thing is JavaScript. So it also injects a JavaScript environment. It's JavaScript in JavaScript. How nice can it be? They also give you sample scripts for deploying smart contracts using Web3.js or Ethers.js. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. We are talking about those libraries later. And you can run unit tests, which I never used in Remix, and we are maybe going to talk about it in the course. But normally I do testing of Remix inside VS Code in Truffle, Hardhat, or Foundry. Remix also has a JavaScript console over here on the bottom, so it's interactive. You can do Web3 for the Web3 library, .utils, I don't know, SHA3, and then create an KZAC hash of this string that I just entered, and that will be the KZAC hash. So if you don't know what it is, also don't worry about it. What is important is, you have the files over here, you have an editor on the right side, there's, also the small one over here, everything is there, and there are plugins in Remix. And those plugins, I mean, the whole thing is a plugin architecture. I think even the File Explorer is a plugin. But then you have a compiler, which we are talking about next, where you have different Solidity versions and so on. And you have a deploy and run transaction plugin where you can actually test your smart contracts. And you have a ton of more plugins if you want to. You can go through them. Maybe we use the debugger later. And I think that's it, what we are going to use in this course, because we are going to move everything off chain, off Remix. If you go to the settings, then in the settings, you have a number of things, but if you like, there's also different themes. So you can change the look of Remix to something to your liking. I stay with the dark theme for now, which is a total contrast to the light theme, which we did in the previous course. In the next lecture, we are going to create a little smart contract. We are going to start it, stop it, and see how we can interact with it from within Remix.